My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zeynep Sönmez and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paulini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time it is in the world, wherever you are tuning in from. How sunny is Scotland today, Jack?
Today is anything, I'm afraid, John. Very grey. Still trying to enjoy ourselves on the tennis courts. It's doable, so we're making do.
Are you outside?
Yeah, well, I'm outside. I'm outside from about 3 o'clock till 7 o'clock this evening, so we'll put up with it. We'll be okay.
All right, cool. Well, the weather is slightly different down under, unsurprisingly. Although I will say this, I've been to the Australian Open once in 2006, and there is an element of 4 seasons in one day. It can be ridiculously hot one moment and then blustery and quite cold the
All right.
next. But more often than not, you do get what you see on the TV. It is crazily hot. But you might just get a day, and I have heard other people say that too. Today, those seem to be pretty warm all round, particularly if you are a Carlos Alcaraz fan who eased through in straight sets over Corentin Moutet. Tommy Paul came through against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, but came through is, I don't know how to put it, because it was 6-1, 6-1, at which point Davidovich Fokina retired. He said he was feeling something throughout the match and couldn't complete it. So we're going to get Tommy Paul against Carlos Alcaraz in the next round. What I like to do, Jack, is a quick reflection, can be bigger picture, can be minute stuff, whichever you prefer, on Alcaraz and Paul's victory before we then hone in on Alcaraz versus Paul itself. I thought Moutet would pose a bigger threat, put it that way.
I don't think he was going to pose a bigger threat. I think obviously he's an informed player. I think he relies on being a kind of master disruptor, right? He's that kind of player, the kind of guy that can kind of unpick people. But Alcaraz is pretty. He just hits the ball a bit too big, doesn't he? I just think he was always going to boss the rallies a bit. And actually, if it does get into those kind of cat and mouse games, Alcaraz can obviously hold it on his own as well. He's just massively talented in that department. So even maybe Moutet at his best, I just didn't think it was going to happen. There's not really any way Moutet could, have the kind of weapons required to unpick Alcaraz, especially over 5 sets. Maybe it could have been 4 sets, but I guess that's what you maybe mean, John, by it being a bit closer. It could have maybe been a 4th set, but
yeah, I didn't expect Moutet to win. But I just thought that, I did say pre-match that if this was on Kia Arena and Moutet could get the crowd involved, and we don't very often see Alcaraz get unnerved, but you never know. And I just thought that Moutet, it was the comfort of the victory rather than the fact that there was a victory itself that surprised me.
Yeah, maybe at the French, but Australia,
yeah,
the crowd aren't quite hostile enough, and maybe that factor doesn't quite come into play as much. So I'm not too surprised at a straight sets one.
No. So Alcaraz eases himself through. Tommy Paul, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. I'm just going to check out exactly what the issue was with him, but he does have a little bit of a reputation, and it's not one that he obviously wants to have, but he does have. There's probably half a dozen people in that top 50 whose bodies are fragile. I'm thinking Thomas Mahac in particular, but there's 1 or 2 others as well. Holger Rune, although obviously his most recent injury was just one of those freak incidents. But yeah, he unfortunately wasn't able to make it. It's a real pity because I think that had the makings of all, of a classic encounter. But then again, I did have a look at the head-to-head, and it was before yesterday. It was 4-0.
Yeah, and a strange stat, obviously, the last 5 sets have been 6-1 to Tommy Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like incredibly one-sided,
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a matchup thing. I just think maybe slightly coincidental. I'm sure there's days where Davidovich Fokina could pose way more of a threat to Tommy Paul. It's not like there's any glaringly obvious differences in their styles of play. but I definitely agree. It was a bit of a shame because it was kind of on my list for one of the matches of the day, and just a bit of a damp squib in the end. That ADF is probably right up there in my kind of top 5 players to watch nowadays. And
I remember you glowing about him when you saw him at Indian Wells in 2023,
unreal.
I think it was.
Yeah, unreal. Just amazing to watch live. And obviously, you still get a picture of how big a ball he hits even on the telly. But he does have the odd match where he's just not there, as you say, a little bit fragile sometimes. Kind of like Monfils-esque, do you know what I mean? Like, he has these matches where it's got the makings of a big billing, but then you could just kind of not give up, but just his body gives up even halfway through the match.
I also know what you mean in terms of the head-to-head. Yes, Tommy Paul has obviously played better than Alejandro Fokina in those particular encounters, but I think timing is huge in tennis, and Alejandro's best moment of his career has been the last 6 months, and Tommy Paul has spent most of the last 6 months injured, so they didn't run into each other when Fokina was in his top form. Anyway, Tommy Paul, can you guess how many wins he has against Carlos Alcaraz?
It's good. I know it's good. I know 2. Off the top of my head, I know 2. Right? Okay. So
I'd forgotten about one of them, let's say, anyway. But yeah, it is 2. It is 2. It's 5-2. I'm probably remembering a little bit more with recency bias as well, that Alcaraz has done pretty well against Tommy in recent meetings, including last year at Roland Garros. It does help that the last 2 came on clay in terms of Alcaraz's prowess on that surface. But yeah, the 2 wins in the first 3 meetings coming in Canada. Oh, Canada back to back. I knew there was 1 in Canada. I didn't realize there was 2.
One of them he saved a match point.
Yes.
I think it was the first one. So it was very tight. It was very tight, but Tommy played a great match actually. And that was one of the matches that really kind of turned me on to him a bit. He was like coming into the net all the time, just these insane kind of transition plays. And yeah, it's a matchup that is dangerous actually. It is dangerous because he doesn't have to stay at the back of the court compared to a lot of these other guys. So it's got the makings of a decent, tight 4-set match, I would say. On a good day and a bad day for Alcaraz, who knows, 5 sets maybe.
Yeah, Alcaraz, of course, with the exception of the US Open last year, can leak sets. I know what you mean. Tommy Paul as well in Australia is a thing. Former Australian Open semi-finalist, of course. He's still not shown anything yet post-injury that he's back. I was kind of waiting for that. I remember with Zverev for a while. Zverev's injury was a bit more severe than what Tommy's was, whereas Tommy's was sort of repetitive or recurrent. But I'm waiting for the moment when a player spent a long time off the tour. I remember when players come back from having babies like Svitolina, the first couple of months was like, well, are we ever going to get back? And then, right now, of course, we're back to normal again. And I haven't quite got there with Tommy Paul, so I think that might play in Carlos's favor. But we know that Australia is a thing for Tommy. We don't yet know it is for Carlos. Why do you think that has been for Carlos? Because he said pre-tournament, by the way, well, I ran into Zverev and I ran into Djokovic, and pretty much that was it. That was his answer, which is fair enough, by the way.
Not really. I would say,
that's what he said. He just said, well, I ran into Zverev, who was serving unbelievably, and I ran into, the greatest player of all time. Maybe that's what he wants to tell himself. I don't know.
If somebody's serving like Zverev and still able to hold their own from the back of the court, if it's a really good serving day for that guy, fair enough. Alcaraz's serve is still decent, but it's not in the kind of top 5 on tour. So there's days where Zverev could definitely take the racket out of. We've seen that indoors particularly, but Australia's fast enough that you can get some similar kind of results. The Djokovic one is Djokovic is obviously Djokovic, so maybe I take.
So, if there is anything else about Carlos down under, what might it be?
Do you know? I doubt he plays that much worse than he does at the US. I think that's maybe the suggestion. I don't think there's any glaringly obvious reasons why, but bar it being the start of the year, why he would play worse here than he would in the US Open. So I'll take his word for it, because I could see if somebody's serving better, that's fair enough. Zverev's going to be pretty tricky to beat. And Djokovic is Djokovic in Australia. He's going to play better at Australia than he would at the US. So yeah, I can give Alcaraz the benefit of the doubt there, I think, actually.
Carlos was punishing Corentin Moutet's second serve big style today. I expect him to try and do the same with Tommy Paul. And I, like you, I think I'm going to go with a 4-set win for Carlos. Okay, let's roll on. Bublik has just won the most recent match. Both Bublik and Andreeva were in a race to finish first. They were sort of the two last matches to get done. We haven't had any crazy nights in Melbourne this year, like, of course, we had when Andy Murray was keeping us all, well, not keeping us up. He was keeping up Australians. We were coming home from work and he was still finishing his match against Kokinakis.
Yeah, oh my God,
yeah, that was wild. We've not
great.
quite had that level of drama this year so far. And one of those reasons, by the way, is because Bublik is not providing us with the kind of drama that he normally does. He certainly is basically saying, I have kind of turned over a new leaf. He's still got that humor with it. You know, he's saying that I just want to spend more weeks at home, he said in his on-court interview at the end of his match today. But he's just routining top players like Echeverry. Yeah. Now, maybe routining is a little bit of an exaggeration, as you can see from the scoreline there.
Oh, no,
but I saw him in the first round against Brooksby, by the way, and he was incredible.
Yeah, to be honest, if it's a tiebreak, but it's straight sets, I'd call that routine. Do you know what I mean? Against these guys, it's always going to be pretty tight. But if it's straight sets at the end of the day, Bublik is like so much better on these big points nowadays. Totally trust his forehand. His forehand's like a proper weapon nowadays, to the point where it's like Daly Murray mentioned, to the point where it's like competing with a lot of the best, and obviously he's still got that serve. It's really great to see. He's probably the favourite going in against de Minaur for me.
Okay, because I find this one probably the most difficult of the fourth rounders on the men's side to pick.
Yeah, to call it, it's obviously close, and I would totally be unsurprised if de Minaur won as well. But I've picked Bublik by an edge, just the way he's been playing, and he's got big enough weaponry to get through de Minaur. And it's these kind of matchups that de Minaur normally shies away from. Do you know what I mean? Can't really step up against big hitting top tenors. These kind of guys that are just going to fly through service games. So I'm sticking with Bublik for that one. Yeah.
We have seen on the men's side in particular, but actually the big seeds or the big guys are winning. I think at one point it was just Felix who'd gone out amongst the sort of top 16 players. We've obviously seen Davidovich Fokina for corners now and one or two others. But yeah, what that means is now, because I think we've had a pretty unmiraculous Australian Open so far, but that does mean we hopefully will be in for some meaty fourth rounders. I can't choose. I can't split these two. De Minaur at home. Bublik, I think you're right, does have the tools to beat de Minaur, and de Minaur, his tools are all we kind of know what they are. I mean, speed is obviously one of them, movement's another one, and he's kind of just pretty good in all other departments. I'm going to go de Minaur in 5, home crowd, Rod Laver, etc., etc. But it's a paper thin. I wouldn't be surprised if the bookies can't split them as well. All right, let's roll on through, unless you want to say something more.
No. I said what I said. Bublik, I think, I'll still stick with Bublik, but it's definitely one to watch. Could be the juiciest of the fourth rounds in terms of what result will happen. And as you say, we need something to spark the slam a bit to life. It's not.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been okay. There's been some nice crowd situations with Alex Iala, Zeynep Sönmez as well, and one or two others, and Naomi Osaka has ruffled feathers in every ruffled things in many ways.
With the crowd not booing, putting Seva afterwards.
Today, yes, with the dance, yeah, a lot of fun there. I'll come to that even if it's me alone, because I watched that from start to finish pretty much. There's a lot of fun things to talk about there. Listen, look at these scores, okay? There's, for me, one clear answer. Which of these two results is kind of like, ooh, more for you?
I imagine you're alluding to the fact Rublev's upset's not that surprising, maybe?
What I'm alluding to is that I expected Zverev to beat Cam Norrie one way or another.
Yeah.
4 sets feels about right. That is probably if we had like 100 tennis experts and they went Zverev in 4, that would be the most likely outcome.
Yeah, of course.
Fran beating Andre is a 50-50, okay?
I'd have said similar as well. And
exactly.
Straight sets for me is surprising.
So that's why I'm like, ooh, okay.
He's still playing decent tennis. The thing is, with Cerundolo, he's obviously very similar to Rublev. And if, in the way he plays kind of thing. And if Rublev's a little bit off, which he's just been a bit meek recently. Do you know what I mean? Just like none of these big points kind of going his way a lot of the time. And actually a lot of that anger is starting to dissipate, and in its place is just almost disappointment, despair. It's kind of like, just that kind of spark and life to him is going a little bit. It's a bit of a shame. He's still a top 20 player. I think it could have went his way, but I am actually more surprised to see that straight sets than, Zverev in 4 is also what I called for that. Although actually I thought that could have been a little tighter. Obviously it's still quite an early round. Zverev can be a little bit tight in those early rounds, and Cam's obviously the worst kind of player you want to play if you're not going to hit through the court basically. But actually Zverev played a pretty decent match in the end, so fair play.
Yeah. Fran's trajectory just seems to be a little bit upward, and Andre's just seems to be a little downward, even if he's had a good few months, has Rublev. But Cerundolo against Zverev again. I say again because I feel like these two guys are meeting every few months on various different surfaces. I'm going to have a look at their head-to-head, but I wouldn't be surprised if it reads pretty well for the Argentinian. Yes, indeed, it does. 3-2.
It's in his favour. Oh, there you go. Like, it's not a good matchup, is it? Again, somebody who's got a really big weapon like Cerundolo, if Zverev decides to play back a bit, he can totally take the match into his own hands. Quite easily. Like he's got the weaponry to do that. One of the best forehands on tour. So, thing is, the
last 2 meetings have gone the way of the Germans. So it was 3-0 before Canada last year, albeit that was a retirement for Fran.
I can't quite see that. Are there any slams there though?
No, but the other thing, that the biggest sort of thing for me is that the 3 wins in a row for Fran were all on clay. The most recent 2 have been on hard, albeit 1 outdoor, 1 indoor, and we were a slam.
And we're a bit deeper in the tournament now.
Yeah, I think Zverev is winning this, but it's a close one. And this is, like I said, we haven't had many seeds falling, so I'm going to go for Zverev in 5.
Zverev in 5 is a good shout, and I think I'll actually stick. I will stick to 4. By a whisker, I do think that serves come into a lot more in slams, and obviously over more sets, but also in hard courts, etc. And Zverev's serve is significantly better than Cerundolo's, so it doesn't really matter how long it takes him to settle into the match. I think there will be a point where the percentage is basically fall in his favour. So I'll go Zverev in 4.
2 matches that I saw most of were Daniil Medvedev against Fabian Marchand and Lerner Tien against Nuno Borges. Yeah, I know, it's exciting. But let me tell you this. I kind of dipped out of the Medvedev match midway through the 3rd set. Not I had like multi-screen things going on, so I wasn't ever like honed in on it either. But he was down an early. He went down 1-love at the beginning of the 3rd, so he's down 2 sets to love and a break.
Yeah. And
the only thing I would say is that it never felt like this match was really in Marozsan's grasp. You can see the nature of the scoreline in the first 2 sets. There were breaks galore, which I think for Medvedev going forward doesn't bode well in terms of his serve being much more attackable in 2026 than ever before. As for Lerner Tien, that was pretty routine, with the exception of the fact he was 5-3 down in the first set. But Lerner Tien was easily the better player from that moment onwards and did deserve to come through it unscathed in the way he did. And now, Jack, as you did, Medvedev Tien, it's happening again.
Very excited for this. I forgot. So when I said that Bill like Demonor is the one to watch, this is the one to watch first. Definitely.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll have a watch along for this one. So
some people don't bother watching Medvedev anymore, to be fair, and I don't blame them. The guy's been frustrating if you are a Medvedev fan. But for me, I really enjoy watching him. There's that little hint, obviously, after the title and after just some wins that look quite promising, that he is slightly coming back. Tien is just so, obviously, we've now seen the matchup, so difficult for Medvedev to beat, because he obviously plays probably better than Medvedev from the back of the court. I think at the moment he's playing a better version of Medvedev's game from the back of the court. If Medvedev can't serve as well as he needs to, then it's Tien all the way. And if that last match was anything to go by, then Tien's probably the favourite.
I think he might be. I think those 2 matches, their path to the 4th round, the fact that Tien has a 2-1 head-to-head, including a 5-set win at a Grand Slam a year ago, and I think Tien is a better player a year on than he was then. I felt in Beijing, in retirement, by the way, for Medvedev, arguably Medvedev going into that third set, I thought was still going to win that match. He won the first set, lost the second, but I thought he would actually emerge. In the end, he ended up retiring at 4-0 down, 4-love down. Their match in Shanghai was a 3-set barnstormer. They are outside of Sinner and Alcaraz, they are the matchup that needs to be watched. I think I'm going Lerner in 5 again, like last year. You're going Medvedev.
I don't know. I want Medvedev to win. I like Tierney, he'll get his time, but Medvedev, there's still this slight hope that Medvedev's time isn't totally up, and maybe if he does get deep in a slam, he's really feeling the ball at that point, and his serves clicked, that he could pull off the upset against one of these guys. But it's pretty slim.
Give me a name. Just give me a name. Medvedev or Tien?
If I'm using my brain, Tien.
All right. Heart and head and all the rest of it. I think we understand. Okay, that is the men's side. Have you got 5 minutes to do some of the women?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
All right. Let's get straight into the women, and let's start at the top. Sabalenka against Potapova. Let me tell you now, the level that Sabalenka showed today, she's not winning the Australian Open. That's not to say she will not win the Australian Open. I'm just saying the level today. On second serve returns, honestly, it was, I don't know what I was watching. I was watching what can happen when you're that big on the second serve returns, as in like they were going into the net. She had love 40 on the Potapova serve, and could have won that first set far more comfortably than she did. I think she may even have been a mini break down in that tie break too. Then in the second set, she races into a 4-1 double break lead, and the serve just goes a-wandering. And Potapova, by the way, had her chances in that tiebreak. I think she had 3 or maybe even 4 set points. She certainly had 3 set points before Sabalenka managed to come through. Hats off to her. It is all about digging deep, and it's not about how you win these matches necessarily that wins you the title. Or in fact, maybe it is, but it's not in terms of how dominant you are exactly en route to the title.
Of course, it depends who the player is. But I was just going to say, it depends who the player is. And for Sabalenka, we're talking specifically about Sabalenka, we've seen her play matches like that, and she does come out later in the fortnight playing better tennis. So it's not like this is totally danger zone for her. You know, there's little tweaks she can make to her serve, and all of a sudden she's back to just like super confident player she is. So it's difficult to just look at this match and say she's not winning the Australian Open. It certainly was a scare for Sabalenka fans, but I wouldn't be too worried. Obviously, you look at some of the stats. I'm looking at the stats there, and Potapova's first serve percentage is under 50%, and obviously she's
getting her first serves in under 50%. Potapova
under 50%. Yeah. So there's very few first serves in. So Sabalenka should have been doing much better. She didn't. Fine. She's still in the tournament. Normally, I mean, I actually don't know if this is a fact. John, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong on this, but Sabalenka's runs tend to have 1 or 2 spotty moments. It's not normal. I think maybe the last Australian Open, actually.
They tend to come in the semi-finals or the finals, though, the last 18 months.
So. Yeah. That's true. It normally comes deep in the tournament. But there is a point where maybe things are a bit more spotty. So I'm sure she'll be okay.
I think so. And if, in a way, if you're going to have an off return day, maybe have it in the third.
Well, obviously, sorry, I hadn't actually seen the next round.
Right. Well, just before we have a quick word on Sabalenka and Mboko, I didn't watch every match, but I know the matches I saw, and I know what happened in the other ones I didn't. The Mboko-Towson match was wild, and I think it was in some ways the best match of the day. I think for a set and a half, it also had the quality. But then at 5, so basically they exchange breaks in the first set, and Mboko comes through a mega tight one, but the level is high. In the second set, Towson's forehand down the line was just off the charts. Movement, at times, but we know that with Clara. But nevertheless, she goes up an early break Towson at the beginning of the second set, and you're thinking, wow, we're going 3-4 hours here, and we might be going to a deciding set tiebreak and all sorts of things. And it was kind of 2 halves to the match, because then Mboko had the bit between her teeth, as I said on the watch along, and gets to a break advantage in the second set. In fact, she serves for the match at 5-3 and has one of those horror sort of trying to serve it out moments. And gets broken to love. Takes that into the rest of for the next 25 minutes, that felt like it was there, except for when Towson was serving to stay in the match at 4-5, she has 3 match points on the Clara serve, and at least 2 of them she either should have won or netted at neutral. So, neutral rally, netted somehow, maybe a bit tight, who knows, tired as well, perhaps. as the heat was bearing down. Now, at this point, it's 5-all, and you're going, I don't know how Mboko recovers from this. And she doesn't for another 20 minutes because Towson wins 5 games in a row. She did have a little wobble as she was trying to serve out the first set, a second set as well. But of course, you then know she's going to break Mboko again at the beginning of the third. And that's exactly what she did. But Mboko dug so deep. And honestly, I'm very impressed with that win.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely quite good to see that kind of fighting spirit from her. We maybe had an idea of it in some of our matches in the past, but this kind of clarifies it, and obviously one of the most important matches of our career so far. I still would pick Sabalenka here. I actually will pick Sabalenka maybe a bit more confidently than I started there. I do think she's been here enough times now that she does have that slight advantage, maybe mentally, so long as her serve's working and everything's maybe a bit more concrete before she comes into the match. But it has the potential to be blockbuster. It should be blockbuster in the future at the very least. If when Mboko's really kind of emerged, exciting. I think it's probably the ladies' match to watch for tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah, Sabalenka and Mboko, that is an exciting one. I, like you, though, I'm just going to go with the experience. And Mboko also had a heavily strapped, I think it was a right leg. But I'm always keen to see those things, but then I want to see how they're playing. And it didn't seem to affect her one iota. Have you got time for one more match?
Yeah, go one more.
Go one more then. So we've got Sonmez coming up, or this little trio here. Sonmez Putintseva was a lot of fun, as we've already touched on already, for various reasons. Not least the Turkish crowd, but also the way the umpires' calls were just being ignored to cover it. But she had a sort of very British sort of, no, you don't do that. No, don't. Or not just British, but like a mother, like trying to say, don't. Or a dog owner, don't eat the sofa again. But Putintseva thrived on it. She did exactly almost what I expected. And I think I would do the same, not quite to the extent. I would probably cut my ears. Are you an ear cupper?
No.
Do you do that on the Glaswegian courts when there's...
I'm pretty chill. I don't,
I like the ear cupping. I'm okay with it. It's exactly what I would do, and I feel that. I wouldn't go as far as Putintseva and do all sorts of crazy dances and stuff. But anyway,
fist pump. A wee bit of fist pump.
Fist pump, fine, yeah. But fist pump is also if you're not getting dogs abuse. But anyway, listen, fine. Listen, it was a great match, by the way, with Sonmez. And I love the way Sonmez was taking some of these sort of loopy balls on the rise. That seemed to be happening almost every point. Putintseva craft and probably just had a bit too much for Sonmez on the day in that respect. But Sonmez was playing almost lights out, and it got her. Putintseva was serving for the match, by the way. Sonmez broke back, and it was as dramatic and as exciting as that. I just felt that in each set, Putintseva just had a little bit too much with Sonmez, and Sonmez managed to pull it out the bag in the second. But great run from her, history maker. Putintseva is going to be playing Jovic in the next round after a result that doesn't surprise me. I did predict her to beat Paulina. I may even have called it in straights. Are you big on Jovic?
Fairly, yeah. I mean, I'm still a little surprised. I mean, Paulina's maybe been a little bit on the regression recently, but yeah, I'm fairly big on Jovic. I think she's probably got the game to beat Putintseva, who maybe not many people would have called in the fourth round anyway. It's probably my favourite for the match.
Furthest she's ever been. I think she got knocked down in the Australian Open many times at the third round, but she's never got to the fourth until now.
Sounds about right. Yeah. Obviously not the biggest hitter in the world, so that kind of makes sense. We'll tend to get out to hit at some point in the tournament, and I think this could be the one. So
Jovic is going to beat her?
I think so.
I think so too, which is wild to be in a quarterfinals already at that age.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously, Miro Andreeva will be saying, hey, don't forget about me, and I'll be talking about her shortly. Listen, great, Jack, to have you on board today. Thank you very much for joining me and squeezing me into your busy schedule.
No worries. That was good to be here, John.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm on very soon.
Yeah, catch up again soon. Have a good day.
Cheers. I'll see you soon.
Bye. Okay. So you got me for the remainder. I think it'll be about another 15 minutes or so. In the meantime, do hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And by the way, look at this behind me. These are Adidas Barricade tennis shoes that were kindly sent to me and awarded awarded is probably the wrong word, given to me, whatever. So I've yet to actually, as you can see how clean and smart they look, and I will be wearing them on the clay courts, but given that the clay courts won't open until April, I may not be using them until then, and then I'll do a review. But you can get those on the Tennis Warehouse Europe website, and if you click on the link, which is in the description below, but also it is, I think, maybe you can see it running across the bottom of the screen. Most important thing, though, is use the code TALK10, TALK 10 at the checkout, and you'll get a discount on all your tennis needs. Okay, tennis needs, women. Let's have a look at the next section of the draw, which emerged after some results today, which sees Coco Gauff coming through in 3 sets over Baptiste. I saw the opening exchanges of this match, and I saw how Baptiste was doing well. Maybe she listened to the show. Great net approaches and good work there. Unnerved Coco enough to win that first set, but then Coco put the pedal down and ran that out. 3-6, 6-love, 6-3. Morkova, by the way, very dominant and very good win over Magdalene. Magdalene, of course, is someone who's had some success in Australia in the past. So though that looks pretty good for her. As for Coco, just coming back to her match with Baptiste, some of the standout stats were she didn't hit an ace all match, which is a kind of a curious one. 6 double faults across 3 sets, and it's Coco. That's possibly okay. And even though she didn't ace Baptiste, she did win 81% of her first serves. One of the matches, one of the sort of stats that I love in tennis, which I think kind of tells you who the better player was, generally a bit like the sort of XG in football or soccer, is breakpoints won. Coco Gauff was 5 from 10, so she was having a look at the Baptiste serve pretty frequently. Baptiste was much more ruthless, though, 2 from 3. As for the other match there, of course, we have Morkova against Lunette. Well, the scoreline was pretty dominant, and so were the stats to back up Magda's loss, so to speak. Morkova just had way too much, and I think when Magda was down in the second set, it did feel like a bit of an inevitability. Regarding breakpoints and what breakpoints won in this particular encounter, we have 5 from 9 for Morkova, and Linette only had 1 break point in the entire match on the Linette serve. These shoes are called an Adidas Barricade, by the way, Jake, if you're wondering. Oakley dokley. So what about Coco Gauff against Karolina Muchova? Well, if Ostapenko is a kryptonite for Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff is not who you want to be playing if you are Karolina Muchova. Their head-to-head, by the way, is 4-0 in Coco's favor. I remember a US Open semi-final in there, which was tight. That was the one when we had the crazy sort of people locking themselves in concrete to the ground, and we had like an hour delay, if you remember that one. That was in 2023 US Open semi-final. The match that preceded that also went Coco's way was in the same period, which is possibly Coco's best period of her career. Remember that unbeaten run that she had through the North American swing that took all the way to the US Open title. So there was back-to-back wins there for Coco in straight sets, but then she backs it up in 2024 in Beijing with a win in straight sets, and then she wins again in straight sets at the United Cup last year. Doesn't look good, does it, for Karolina? Plus, I think Karolina, if she is going to win this match, she's going to have to do it the hard way, i.e. 3 sets, etc. And she might go 3, but then the physicality, there's only one winner, isn't there, with Coco and Karolina in that department. Yeah, good matchup for Coco. I think a sort of wily, court-crafty kind of person, such as Karolina, doesn't seem to trouble Coco too much. And I have Coco emerging in 3 sets. All right. Have we got any more? yes, we've got one more little section to discuss. Mira Andreeva against Aryna Svitolina is on the cards for the fourth round because Svitolina came in straight sets over Diana Schneider today. Good win for Aryna, especially with such comfort. Andreeva, despite that scoreline, wasn't so comfortable against Rusa. Rusa was having looks and managing to break the Russian serve. Not quite at will, but certainly had a good look at it and did pretty well. Andreeva, though, good for her. She wasn't too ruffled by that. She knuckled down and got the job done. As for Andreeva against Svitolina, their head-to-head reads as follows. And it is 1-0 in Mira's favor, and that only win coming in Indian Wells 2025. En route to the title for Mira, 7-5, 6-3. Let me know in the live chat, but also the comments below as to how you think this match is going to pan out and who you see coming through as the winner. I think Mira Andreeva in 3 sets. Okay, we will have watch-alongs tonight for 1 or 2 matches. I don't know which ones right now, but we will have watch-alongs tonight. Let me know in the live chat, what are the 1 a.m. matches that I should be perhaps doing as a watch-along? I say 1 a.m., 1 a.m. in Germany, so midnight in the UK. And basically the first match is on court in Australia tonight. Let me know which ones I should be doing. All right, but that's for later. In the meantime, thank you for joining me on this slightly chilly Friday afternoon. I think we're going to be having Fergus doing 1 or 2 of these watch-alongs. Keys is playing at his first up. Pliskova versus Keys. I think that might well be our watch-along for tonight. Let me just have a quick look as well. No, I wouldn't schedule. Yeah, Pliskova Keys. Oh, we've got... Okay, so we've got Pliskova Keys at 12:30 Central European time. Okay. So that's a little bit earlier, right? If I've got this correct. So we've got Pliskova Keys, Pegula Selekmetova, and Musetti Mahac. They are... And we've also got Hachanov Darderi. I reckon we'll do Pliskova Keys and Pegula Selekmetova. That's what I think we'll do, but we will see. As I said, Fergus, I think, is going to be doing 1 or even both of those watch-alongs, maybe at the same time. So anyway, thanks for joining, by the way. You know the jazz and all the rest of it. Make sure you hit the like button and all that other stuff. Do get voting in our poll, by the way, on who you think is going to win the women's singles title. That is bouncing around right now. Has nobody voted other? Nobody's voted other in this poll. I thought there'd be a few votes for Rybakina or Andreeva or Mboko. But Sabalenka, 64%. Coco Gauff, 27%. Iga Swiatek, 9%. That feels about right. But no votes for Anisimova either. I thought she might get 1 or 2 shout-outs in there. Also, become a member of the Talking Tennis community. Please do that for as little as €2 a month. You will be supporting the channel if you do that. So, yeah, click on the link that's pinned in the live chat or in the description below, or just click join, and you'll be helping the channel, but you'll also get access to exclusive footage. We need those members, so please become a member as and when you can. But in the meantime, you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.